to TradeBlocked, brought to you by Club Fantasy. I am your host, Dustin at FF Dusty Dog. My co-host joining me this evening, Hoov, back with us after a hiatus last week at HoovTube. And we got Joel at the Joel Wirth. Gentlemen, how are you doing this evening?
Doing good. About 3 miles from this very chair, there's a football game happening tonight, like in a couple minutes. So,
Woo!
Pretty sweet times are coming.
Oh, it sure is. I saw a meme today that be sure to tell your wife this is the there's football on every weekend until Valentine's Day. It's a glorious time to be alive. Hoov, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm getting things rolling. You know, this is my last podcast, my last episode before we actually are in Canton, because Heidi and I are going to be coming in on Thursday, leaving midnight on Wednesday. So I'm way too excited for this. Like, we're going to be hanging out. Joel and I are probably going to be hanging out already Thursday night, probably after this episode next week. He's probably going to be heading down to the DoubleTree. We're probably going to have some beers. We're going to drink some whiskey. Some tequila. But we're going to have a good time that weekend, and I'm feeling it. I'm feeling good. So let's have a banger one last episode before I'm back.
Yes, absolutely. And aren't they all bangers? Let's be honest here.
Bangers.
We got a great show tonight. We're talking all things Rachaad White. So should be interesting here. This is one guy I'll say I have a hard time evaluating. So I'll be really interested to hear your guys' thoughts on him as we get into the show here. So let's just dive right in here. So on Dynasty Nerds, we've got him at RB16.
I got it for you.
Is that?
There we go.
There we go. He is got James Cook and DeAndre Swift ahead of him, and Javonte Williams and Isaiah Pacheco behind him, and 81st overall in Superflex leagues, 75th overall in 1QB. So let's start with the Dynasty Nerds rankings here. 16 overall. How does that sit with you boys?
So you want to get us started?
Me? Yeah, it feels a little low to me. Like, I would have him. Let's big picture running back rankings. Like, your dynasty running back rankings should basically be pretty close to your season long rankings, right? Because, I mean, just expecting any kind of running back to have that job and kind of own the job for more than the year that's in front of you is kind of a fool's errand. So unless they're elites, and if they're elites, they're going to be ranked ahead, way high at the top of your rankings. Anyway, Brees Hall, Bijan, the guys we expect to have jobs indefinitely, those guys are at the top of your rankings for a reason. So, I mean, I would have Rachaad White well ahead of DeAndre Swift. I would have him ahead of Cook. I'm not a big Cook guy. I would have him ahead of Cook, ahead of Joe. I don't know about Pacheco just because of the offense, but I would have him and Rachaad White fairly close. So, yeah, I think this is a little low for and I don't think he's great. We'll talk about him overall as a player, but he fits that team. He fits their role. He does what they want him to do. So I don't see any reason why he's not going to get a pretty significant touch load this year, like he did last year.
Hoov? What do you think? Because I'll be honest, when I saw 16, that was lower than I had expected it to be. I thought he was going to be closer to that like 10 to 12 range. So your thoughts?
Well, that's why I'm glad that we kind of keep the sleeper on there, the sleeper one and the Dynasty Nerds one as well, because at RB13 that seems pretty appropriate on what we're looking at. I'm curious to see like later on in the episode when we look at the sleeper rankings versus like who they have on Dynasty Nerds, but the Dynasty Nerds, they're the pros. These are the big brains that we got to listen to. These are our partners and our sponsors. So, Josh Jacobs, RB11, Trey Benson, RB12, hasn't taken a snap in the NFL yet, but at RB12. Kenneth Walker at RB13. And in my opinion, like, Kenneth Walker probably is like the most appropriate RB13 in that sense on Dynasty Nerds, and James Cook, DeAndre Swift. So for me, like I think I would give White the nod enough to have him be like a back end RB1, but I would definitely have him over someone like Kenneth Walker, who I believe is like the highest high end or running back 2 that you can have. So I think that he probably falls like right around 10, probably 11.
Yeah, looking at these names that we've got scrolling up here on the banner, we got Josh Jacobs, Trey Benson, Kenneth Walker, James Cook, DeAndre Swift. I agree with you there, Hoov. I think I would take him probably above everybody except for Jacobs in this scenario.
Why would you give Jacobs the nod? Like we've seen, like after last year, Jacobs, you saw some regression, but these obviously reasons why with like injury lingering. But why do you like think that Josh Jacobs in this new offense is going to be better than Rachaad White, who we've seen, in Tampa Bay?
Mm-hmm. I have higher hopes for this offense, especially with the new millionaire quarterback we've got on the team. No, I expect LaFleur to be able to utilize Josh Jacobs to his fullest potential, which I don't think we ever saw out in Vegas there with the Raiders. LaFleur is a creative play caller. I know he's tended to like to split the backfield, so I know we're still going to see that, but I do think they're going to have him more involved than we expect, especially in the pass game. I think he's going to be a good sneaky option this year.
I mean, the only reason why, like, yes, the talent very similar. Josh Jacobs is still, very good running back, but I'm big on Marshawn Lloyd, and if you want to follow the reports, I feel like we're too smart to actually believe AJ Dillon's going to be a thing in 2024. But it could happen. It could happen.
He's in the best shape of his life.
It could happen.
Yep.
He's in the best shape he's ever been in, and he's getting to the sideline. He's making lateral cuts. So,
but regardless of what shape AJ Dillon's in, I still feel like he's in better shape than Chase Edmonds and Bucky Irving. Like, I don't know. It's very similar. Bucky Irving, Marshawn Lloyd. I'm more optimistic about Marshawn Lloyd for the long haul. And so, like, I still see Rachaad White as being a bell cow running back, and it's very hard to find those nowadays. And yeah, he's not going to be like that RB6 like every other almost bell cow running back at this point, or top end running back, but he's someone that you can't be sleeping on as your RB1, if you wanted to wait on the position a little bit.
Mm-hmm. So let's move over to Keep Trade Cut here. Similar ranking. They've got him ranked as RB14 with Pacheco, Walker, and Cook ahead of him, and Trey Benson, Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry, and Stevenson behind him. Currently going overall as the 80th selection in Superflex, which is approximately a mid-24 first, and in single QB leagues, 70th overall, approximately a 24 second. So in a similar range, similar guys going around him. Who do you think that's wildly off base?
I can't hate it. You said what? RB13? 14. A little lower than I'd like, but at that value, that's where I would like our viewers to definitely capitalize on that. If he's actually going around RB14 and he's actually falling that far, I just don't see a scenario like they can rank him as that. But like, is in any draft that you're in, have you ever actually seen Rachaad White go as the RB14? Like, I don't think so. I feel like people still see him as that. And yeah, like the projections can say like, oh yeah, like Trey Benson or someone like that above him, but it's hard. The youth is still there. I believe he's still 25.
Mm-hmm.
So he's still viewed as a dynasty, like long-term asset. You can't view running backs too great in a startup draft, but there's no way he's going later than RB12, in my opinion.
Yeah. Joel, do you disagree?
No, I think this is still a little bit low. And like specifically talking about Trey Benson, like this is where we kind of need to listen to the training camp reports, because they're like, he's not only not competing with James Conner for the number one job, he may be the number three back there. I mean, they're talking up Amari DiMercato as being the backup to Conner. He's not having it, like he's not standing out in camp. He's not really doing anything to earn the job, apparently, so far. I mean, it's early, but like if this turns into like, as much as you liked him, you may have liked him as a prospect. If he turns into like a Kendre Miller like last year, like there's the injury concerns, but if he's a guy who doesn't see the field, his dynasty value just evaporates, right? I mean, it's going to take like a Kyron Williams or Zamir White like resurgence for him to have any value whatsoever. So, I mean, he's just going to be a kind of dead asset. So that's something you really need to pay. Like, even if you took Benson with like an early second or something like that, it's something you've really got to be worried about. So yeah, I can't imagine Benson being anywhere close to Rachaad White right now. I mean, that just seems egregious if these camp reports are accurate.
Maybe that's just showing like I'm more in on James Conner than I think. But if this was like Jonathan Brooks, I feel like this would be like a lot closer, just like dynasty lens with the youth of Jonathan Brooks and, like the youth of Trey Benson as well. But James Conner competing versus all the unfortunate news that you've been hearing out of Panthers camp about all these running backs, Deontay Foreman and sorry, mind spacing right now, but Chuba Hubbard, yep, yeah, as well. So you're hearing a few running backs go down, and for the long term, someone like Jonathan Brooks might be better than someone like Rachaad White. But right now, you know what you're going to get with Rachaad White. He's going like very similar to like Ramondre Stevenson, and I'm really bullish on Ramondre Stevenson this year. But for me, if I could wait on the position and like fade obviously the Gibbses and the Halls, you got to grab if you can. But I'm skipping past like Saquon in that tier, and I'm waiting for like Stevenson and White.
Yeah, I think this is where we kind of need to talk about or understand like the dynasty value, because Jonathan Brooks is always going to have the built-in excuse of the knee injury, right? So he's always going to have a market, even if he kind of struggles this year. Right? So if he goes on PUP or something like that and misses the first 4 games, isn't really super explosive, doesn't have the great season that everyone's expecting, he's always going to have that kind of built-in excuse within the dynasty community because he's coming off the ACL. Whereas someone like Benson, if he goes to Arizona, doesn't play, he's just third down or the third running back all season. Maybe Conner misses a couple games and he's not the direct handcuff, or not the direct backup. Like you said, his dynasty value just goes to complete zero. So I mean, this is the stuff you need to be aware of. You need to be paying attention to. So, like, I don't have a lot of Trey Benson because I wasn't super high on him as a prospect, but like if I did, I'd be trying to get out while I could. I mean, it's early and maybe I'm overreacting to camp news, but this is really kind of scary shit.
Yeah, I've definitely I've learned over the years that we always hear about how people are in the best shape of their life, and there's all these highlights and great news coming out of camp. That's the sort of thing you can ignore for the most part. It's these reports of bad coming out from the coaches and the beat writers and stuff. It's like that's way more significant than the good news, because that's going to tell you how what their value really is. So yeah, I think that's a great point.
I mean, the age thing, like I'll be honest, I invested a little bit more than I probably should have after the draft in Trey Benson. But like the fact that he's only 20, like if he's not great this year and James Conner's still a thing, I don't hate him, but like to put him anywhere near this tier seems egregious. So that's like the final talking point I'd say about that. But I kind of wanted to see who on Dynasty Nerds they have below him, just to see if there's anyone that we would possibly be looking at. So Javonte Williams, RB17, Isaiah Pacheco, RB18, Ramondre Stevenson, RB19, Najee Harris, RB20, and Tajay Spears, RB21. first things to pop out to me is that there's some guys here that just seem egregiously high and also egregiously low for Ramondre Stevenson. The fact that Ramondre Stevenson has fallen off this far to RB 19, that just seems crazy to me. I mean, he's 25 as well. You know, same thing with Rachaad White as well. So he still should be viewed as a dynasty asset. You know, not everyone's going to be 20, 22, 23, you know, as long as you're not 27, you know, that's when you should start being cautious about age and whatnot for a dynasty running back. But right now, like, people shouldn't be dipping Ramondre Stevenson that much. And then Tyjae Spears seems pretty high compared to where he's being drafted in some leagues, I feel. So for me, like, there's a few guys. There's Pacheco and Stevenson, who I think that either way, they're all kind of in that same tier right now. And I remember Dustin and I were at Scott Fishbowl, and I ended up getting Isaiah Pacheco, and then it was pretty much the same tier. Like, pick your poison with Pacheco, Stevenson, and White, and any of these guys, they're probably going to get most of the carries in their offenses. So you're getting a bell cow running back basically at a discount. So why not capitalize on any of those guys? But I couldn't really tell you if I would really put them over one another at this point. It's very, very close.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's fair. And Joel, so tell us what you think kind of floor ceiling for Rachaad White this year, and then maybe a couple years out into the future here.
Yeah, so I mean, he's 25, so it's not like he's young or anything like that. It's his third season. He was kind of old coming out of school. So yeah, I don't think he's someone who's going to hold a ton of dynasty value, you know, long term. But who mentioned before, he was RB6 last year, you know, somewhere around there. He's not a great, you know, interior between the tackles runner and like that, but he's a very good pass catcher, and that's what they want out of their backs, because they have a really bad run blocking offensive line. So and it's been that way for basically since Brady was there, right? Since the days of Leonard Fournette and stuff like that. It's like they've preferred like backs who are, you know, better pass catchers than, you know, maybe interior runners. So, and we know the fantasy value of a reception just significantly outweighs that of a carry touch wise. So I think he's a very valuable asset this year. Like, they brought in Bucky Irving. Bucky Irving's basically the same kind of player, right? So to me, Bucky Irving is redundancy. He's not someone who's going to come in and replace Rachaad White, take touches away from Rachaad White. He's just, you know, a guy who's there in case Rachaad White gets hurt. So yeah, I think the only case where he doesn't kind of repeat the value that he had last year is if he gets hurt. And that's the same risk that literally everyone in the league has. So.
Mm-hmm. Who would you agree with that?
I can't hate that. You know, like, this is gonna be one of those episodes where we're all kind of very in agreement, and that's why it's hard for some people to really find like his dynasty value. And I feel like we're gonna find his appropriate dynasty value more in the trades later in this episode than we're really gonna go through comparing players like this. Like, it's really pick your poison in this tier. It really is. And so there's every reason to like Rachaad White. There's every reason to not like him compared to someone else in this draft class. So that's why it's so hard, and that's why we put this show together, because we want to help people find it. But in reality, if three people are sitting here together and they're saying, I wouldn't mind having Rachaad White on my roster, that's a good indicator that no matter where you're getting him, or not necessarily where you're getting him, don't reach, but from where you're getting him, whether he's your RB1, RB2, you want to wait, whether you're filling your roster with talent around this player feels very, very safe for you to get in redraft, dynasty, whatever the lens is.
All right. So basically, I think what I'm hearing here, just to sum it up, he could be one of the great values in drafts for this year.
Yeah, I mean,
I think he's undervalued right now.
Like, and that's one of the things that's tough is, like, look at someone like Isaiah Pacheco, to comp them. I was talking about this last night on the other Club Fantasy show. It's like there's some players that they're good, and yet they're not flashy, or they don't have high profile name value to them. And so people just continuously discredit them, even though they will watch these games and watch them plow over people and watch them do marvelous things. And yet they continuously discredit it because it's Isaiah Pacheco. Like how high am I going to draft Isaiah Pacheco? How high am I going to draft Rachaad White? At a certain point, like, not everyone comes in the league with the name value of Saquon Barkley. They hold on to that. Some people earn it. Look at someone like Kyren Williams, where there's no reason, like, there's not no reason. There's a lot of reason to believe that Kyren Williams is just going to keep doing what he's doing, but Blake Corum's there, and so there's so much doubt because he doesn't have that high-profile name associated with Kyren Williams. And so if it was someone like Breece Hall, they wouldn't be worried about him because it's just Braylon Allen. But that's the thing, is that people like don't want to really give Rachaad White the credit that he deserves because he's a good player. He's a damn good player, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a good spot to leave that. And let's start moving into some actual trades here that Rachaad White has been involved in. Gentlemen, do either of you have any? Otherwise, as I was saying before we got going here, I've got our partners here at Dynasty Nerds, their GM tool pulled up with recent trades for Rachaad White. But if you guys have any, we'll start with those first.
Let's go through like 5 of those. I got some pre-prepared for us with our banners, but I kind of want to see what's actually gone through and where the people are thinking.
All right. So we will have to get this reset because, hey, why not make this more difficult when we're streaming live, huh?
Well, that's all right. How about while you pull that up, Joel, we can go through the first banner one, and we can decipher some values. So the first one, Team 1, running back Rachaad White. Team 2, 1-for-1, Jake Ferguson.
Like this would have to be.
PPR. Let's go full PPR.
I mean, I guess the question is it tight end premium or not? Because if it's not, then it's easily Rachaad White. And it's probably not close. If it is tight end premium, then I could make a case for Ferguson. But Ferguson's a guy who's not really doesn't get much of a bump in tight end premium because his value is going to be primarily in touchdowns. So I think either way, I would still rather have Rachaad White.
Then from the viewer standpoint, let's just say that they were bringing this as a tight end premium. Let's say even like a 1.5 tight end premium. Does that change your opinion at all?
1.5, no. I think I would still rather. It would have to be a pretty heavy premium, like probably 2.0 or full point tight end premium before I would consider Ferguson over Rachaad White. So
let's do the rankings comparison. So where do you have White finishing roughly this season? Just give me. You don't have to give me a number. You can just say low end RB1. You can say high end RB2.
Yeah, I think he's a low end RB1. I think he's somewhere between 6 and 12.
Okay. And where do you have Fergie?
Very low end, probably tight end 10, something like that.
Okay. So if you're a Fergie lover, like Dustin, are you a Fergie lover?
Oh, you know it. Love Jake the Snake.
All right. So in a 1.5 tight end premium, we got Jake the Snake Ferguson, Wisconsin Badger legend, Barry Alvarez's grandson, if you didn't know it. I'm sure they probably told you a million times while you went there, but would you, as a Jake Ferguson fan that probably might view him with more upside this season, does that change your opinion at all?
No, I would still take Rachaad White over him, whether it was tight end premium or not. I think it pretty easily too. I love Jake. I think he could be the number 2 receiving option in Dallas this year, but that still just doesn't move the needle enough for me. He's kind of in that tier of tight ends where it's pick your poison. You know, with like Njoku, you've got Goddard's going around there, Komet. I mean, it's not a sexy group of guys, and I feel like any one of them are interchangeable. So I just don't see a ton of upside coming out of there either. So I would much rather have Rachaad White.
All right, that's not sexy, but call me JT. I'm gonna bring sexy back real quick. So trade 2, team 1, running back Rachaad White. Team 2, a 2025 first. Do you feel like a 2025 first is appropriate for where he could be as a low end RB1?
Yeah, I think that's a coin flip. If I needed a running back, I would rather have Rachaad White. If he was not necessarily a guaranteed starter for me every week, if I was pretty stacked at running back, then I would rather have the flexibility of the first. But I think that's about his value. So yeah, I think that's really team dependent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going to say pretty much the same thing. I was going to say if I needed a running back on my squad to kind of push me over the edge, I would take Rachaad White. But just kind of how we've talked about on this show, looking like next year is going to be a fairly favorable running back class. You might as well just wait and get a guy that's 3 years younger than next year if Rachaad White isn't going to make the difference on your squad this year.
I could talk myself into this. Like if I'm a contender, I would definitely want Rachaad White, and I would probably trade away the 2025 first. 2026, obviously, it's a different scenario. We're thinking a lot farther down the road, but this feels a lot like the trade that I made last season when I was trying to contend. Did contend, didn't win it, but got like third place. I want to say, but I traded my 2025 first, so it's 2 years from now in that scenario, for Ramondre Stevenson, and I traded away Kendra Miller in that trade as well, and I got back Ty J. Spears. So pretty much at that point, you're flipping Kendra Miller, Ty J. Spears, and then Ramondre Stevenson for that 2025 first. So that feels very similar. Rachaad White for a 2025 first at this point. I could see both scenarios playing out for both teams. If you're trying to just tear it all down and you want to get rid of Rachaad White, like they were alluding to, 2025 draft, there could be some running backs that are more of a second round value, and you could be loading up the position that way, or maybe even a late first. So I don't hate it. I don't hate it from either point of view. So did you get the thing pulled up already?
I sure did.
All right.
Let's see here if I can't bring it up on the screen and we just kind of scroll through and share it with our fans. All right. So the first one here is Superflex League. Side A gets Stephon Diggs and Rachaad White. And the other team gets a 24 first and a 24 second.
Joel, you want to go first?
I would have to know where that first is. Like if it was like very high, if it was like a Marvin Harrison or Malik Neighbors or something like that, then I would rather have the first and second. If that's a back end first, then this is pretty easily the White and Diggs side.
24 is too tough for me. 24 is too tough for me. If it was 25, like I was alluding to in the last trade, I definitely would do that. But 24 draft class is way too stacked. If it was the 24 class, I think I would be leaning more towards like 2 high-end seconds. I definitely want like a 201, 202, and then some kind of pick compensation next year as well, and then probably a piece back. And I think that there was a trade in the trade packages and the banners that's had something very similar that we'll talk about later on. But for me, this is the picks, hands down.
All right, let's do a couple more here. This one's interesting here. This is a Superflex League. Doesn't say it's tight end premium, but side A gets Nico Collins and Rachaad White, and side B gets TJ Hawkinson coming off that injury.
I'm gonna guess that it's tight end premium. Could even be.
It has to be.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's not tight end premium, you'd rather have Nico ahead of Hawkinson by himself. So, yeah, this has to be tight end premium.
I could see it even being like a tight end premium, like half PPR.
Yeah, well, let's just assume it's tight end premium then.
I will definitely have to go with Nico Collins and Rachaad White, even though Hawkinson at a certain point last year, if he wouldn't have gotten hurt, we were probably looking at the Dynasty tight end one for the long haul. So it's a tough call, but this is way too much value that you can get on Nico Collins and Rachaad White.
Yeah, I can't imagine who would want to make this deal if you're giving up the Collins and White side. It's like it would have to be a rebuilder who just doesn't want to who wants the asset of TJ Hawkinson, but doesn't want the points on their team or something like that. Because I don't think Hawkins is going to, he's probably going to start the season on PUP. They've got a week 6 bye. And I think they're coming off of, that comes after a trip to England or something like that. So I don't think we see him until at least week 7. And then he's probably going to be hampered by the ACL. I doubt we see him at full strength until, at least the fantasy playoffs, if even then. So, yeah, that's the only way this makes any sense whatsoever. This, in 90% of the cases, this is the Nico Collins and Rachaad White side. It's not particularly close.
All right, let's look up here. How about this one? This is super flex as well. You've got Jalen Waddle, a 24 first, and Rachaad White on one side. The other side is Tyreek and Brock Purdy.
Damn. All right. We're going to bring up the Jalen Waddle talk like we did the other week. This is where I practice what I preach. And this is one of those trades that if I can get Jalen Waddle and 2024 first and Rachaad White, man, it's as great as Tyreek Hill could be, and he could be great until the last day he plays in the NFL, and Brock Purdy could be the starting quarterback with all those weapons for years to come. I don't know how anyone couldn't look at that side and turn that down to get Jalen Waddle 2024 first and Rachaad White.
Joel, do you feel the same way?
I think the question is how good a quarterback does that Purdy spot need to be before you would do this? Because I wouldn't do it for Purdy. I mean, if you look at it, it's basically like Waddle and Tyreek, you can kind of wash a little bit. I think Waddle has a better dynasty value, but Tyreek probably has a better expectation for this year. So now it's a first and Rachaad White for Purdy. Again, it kind of depends where that first is, but even if it's a late first, you could probably get a JJ McCarthy if you need a third quarterback or something like that. So I'm going to lean the Waddle Rachaad in the first side. I don't think it's egregious either way, but I think it's an interesting question if that quarterback was Burrow, Love, something like that, then it's a more interesting proposition. But as it is, I think it's the Waddle side.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement on this one as well. Let's pull up one more off of here. Or not.
Yeah,
well, it just reset on me, so we'll just move on from that.
Alrighty, so I'll pull one up right over here. So big boy trade. Team 1, running back Rachaad White, 2025 first. Team 2, running back Jahmyr Gibbs.
Ooh, that is big boy. Joel, why don't you start us off with this one?
Yeah, Gibbs has he's got much more dynasty value, but if you're just trying to win this year, what's the expectation of point difference between Gibbs and Rachaad White? Is it 20 points, 30 points? I think there's probably more certainty with Gibbs, but I don't think Rachaad White's going to be so far behind him that he's not worth the extra first. So I think this is pretty close, but I think, again, team dependent a little bit, but I think I would lean the White. And I think this is a nice tear off if you want to turn Gibbs into 2 assets. I think this is a pretty nice way to do it because you're tearing down at running back, but the point production differential for this year isn't going to be that much different. Plus you get the first. So yeah, if you're trying to win this year, I don't mind that White in the first side.
Preach. And how many platforms are you going to find that are going to tell you that in a scenario you should trade Jahmyr Gibbs? Not many, but this one's the one, baby. This one's the good one.
And I'm fully on board with making that trade too. Yeah, you're like, as you said, Joel, you're tearing down just a little bit, but it's not significant. And Rachaad White, he should still be very good for the next 2-3 years, possibly. Depending on if Tampa Bay tries to bring in another guy next offseason or whatnot. But assuming he has the same type of role for the next couple seasons, yeah, getting that extra first. And I don't know if people forget that David Montgomery is still there in Detroit, and uh, he's a very capable back on his own right. So. I know we saw Jahmyr Gibbs get more and more involved last season as the season went on, but they might want to spell him a little bit and continue to give Montgomery some action there to keep him fresh for the playoffs. So I'm Team Rachaad White on this one all the way.
All right, so let's see where you're at with this one. Another big boy trade, not as big boy. Team 1, Rachaad White, and 2025 second for running back Jonathan Taylor.
I'll lean Jonathan Taylor on this one, but it's not significant. I think it's a pretty fair trade. But just give me JT. We've seen him be the number one overall back in fantasy. I think he's going to come back this season healthy, and you won't be able to trade for him and get this sort of discount next year. Not that it's a huge discount, but any edge that you can get is great. So give me Taylor on this one.
All right, Joel.
I don't see that 25 second as being particularly valuable. So yeah, I think there's a big difference between 25 first and a 25 second if you're talking the tier off. So yeah, I'm going to agree with Dusty here. I would rather have Taylor because I think he's just a much more marketable player than White is. And the second just doesn't kind of make up the gap for me.
All right. So we're going to go from the RB5 to the RB6 and see if that changes your opinion. Instead of Jonathan Taylor, it's Travis Etienne. Joel, start us out.
I'm pretty clearly not an Etienne guy, so this is easily I would probably rather have Rachaad White over Etienne straight up. So I know Jesus. That's not reflective of the market, but personally, I would rather have White than Etienne straight up. So yeah, I would easily take the White side.
I think their range of outcomes is pretty similar, although I like Etienne. So give me the White side just because you're getting that second on top of it.
Haters, ladies and gentlemen, haters. I'm surrounded by
Rachaad White
haters.
scored 13 fewer fantasy points than Travis Etienne last year. 13 points. That's less than a point a week.
Upside. That proves how great he can be. That's all that matters. All right, moving on. Team 1, running back Rachaad White, 2025 third. Team 2, running back Najee Harris, running back David Montgomery, and a 2025 second. Dustin, start with you.
Give me Rachaad White and the third. He's the best player in the trade. Harris and Montgomery will be serviceable. They'll be, Harris should be a solid RB2. Montgomery maybe flirting with a low-end RB2, high-end RB3 by the end of the season's done, which is great. You need those types of players on your team, but give me White, a guy that you can just plug and play every single week.
Joel?
I agree with Dusty that White is the best player in the deal, but I'm going to disagree. I'm going to take the other side. I think there's a lot of value in that Najee Montgomery side. I don't think those guys are, more than a tier down from White. Plus, you're getting the upgrade of the third to a second. I do like Najee quite a bit this year in the what's the guy in Pittsburgh? Arthur Smith.
Arthur Smith.
Yeah, I think he's got significant upside in that offense. So, I think there's too much value on the second side to pass up on it. So, even though I do think White's the best player in the deal, but I would take team 2 here.
I think that's exactly why Team 2 is trying to do this. I feel like this is definitely a Team 2 trying to pull this trade off, and Team 1 is like contemplating it. But Team 2 is trying to be sneaky because there's some sneaky value, like he alluded to. But if I'm a team that's trying to contend and win this year, I don't know how I'm going to try to trade Rachaad White for Najee Harris. If I'm not contending and I want to try to get as much value as possible, I could always like do this trade and then trade Najee Harris to someone else that feels the same way as Joel, or even like try to trade David Montgomery for another second, on top of that. So, because someone out there is probably going to need a running back at this point with how scarce they are. So, yeah, you could be walking away with at least 3 seconds and probably even like another third back. So it feels appropriate. Anything else to add?
Mm-hmm.
Nope.
Yeah.
No.
All right. Team 1, running back Rachaad White. Team 2, Alvin Kamara, and a 2025 second.
Go ahead, Joel.
I think if the second was on the White side, I would take the White side. I think whatever side the second is on, I'm going to take. I think White and Kamara are probably pretty close for this year, and that's all I really care about with running backs. So yeah, I'll take the side that has the second.
Dustin?
I'll take the Rachaad White side here. While I agree with you, Joel, that it's pretty balanced, I would just rather take the few years back with White on this one.
Let me ask you for our viewers. So our viewers are in a draft, and obviously there's big difference in the ADP between White and Kamara. Would you target White early, or would you wait and try to go after Kamara, seeing that they're similar? Like you would just add that second difference.
I think what's the difference? Like talking 30 fantasy point difference last year. I just don't think there's that much difference between Kamara and White that I wouldn't just take the side that has the second. So yeah, I would be comfortable waiting to get, like, if I'm in a startup and I just need like an RB2, I'm okay waiting for Kamara instead of jumping on White and getting using the higher pick on a different position.
That's fair.
Yeah, because to me, Rachaad White's the guy that if I want to wait and grab an RB in around 3-4, that's probably the guy. Probably around 4. That's probably more appropriate. But yeah, that's probably the guy that I'm targeting last to be my RB1. And if not, I'm going 0 RB and trying to figure out something with Alvin Kamara. So I would probably agree. Another one. Team 1, Rachaad White. Team 2, running back Tyjae Spears, 2025 second and a 2026 second.
I'll just say it. Just give me White. It's I like Tyjae Spears, but that backfield is murky. We don't know how that's going to play out. Could he emerge as the guy? Sure, he could, and then maybe we'll be changing our tune, at the end of this season. But a 25 second and a 26 second. I mean, the 26 is just kind of whatever at this point. So just give me Rachaad White.
For me,
I generally agree with that. Real quick, just that there's a lot of uncertainty. This could go wrong if like Tyjae Spears could take over that backfield, and then this trade looks really bad. But I think you're just getting a lot of certainty with White, so I would kind of lean that side.
For this year, yes. If I like really believed in Tyjae Spears for the long haul, I would think I would do the other side. But Tyjae Spears to me is just a this year guy. I think that he's the most explosive running back in that backfield. But obviously, like we talked about earlier, there's a lot of running backs that are coming out next year that could replace Tyjae Spears, and I just don't see him as a dynasty running back that I'm going to target. I targeted him in Scott Fishbowl, and so I think that in a format like that, he's got a lot of upside. But I couldn't trade away Rachaad White, even if I'm getting 2 seconds on top of it, because I think that he'll be done after that. So Rachaad White easily. All right. Okay, this one. So we gotta. If you guys don't know our friend Gator. Gator is ridiculous.
Everybody knows Gator.
Everyone knows Gator. Gator don't play no shit, but apparently he was playing today a little bit because this has to be a joke because he he submitted these trades and at least this one I think is a little bonkers. But no, we're not trade package. No, we're not kidding. 2025 first for Justin Fields. Now, I think we all can kind of tell on where I'm leaning on this one, but am I alone in my thinking?
Yeah, so to be clear here, Gator just sent these from a league he's in. This is not Gator's trade, so I don't want anybody thinking he's out there fleecing people or getting fleeced. This is someone who's smoking too much training camp hype on Justin Fields. He is not worth the 25 first. I think you got to remember with Fields is they are incentivized to not play him the full season, right? If he gets a certain number of snaps, the pick that they gave to the Bears upgrades to a third. So there's no way he's playing a full season this year. He may end up as the quarterback at the end of the year, and we'll see where his dynasty value goes from there, depending on how well he plays. But he's not playing a full season. There's no way he's worth the 25 first.
I wouldn't even give up a second for him.
But I mean, as you just said, Joel, if he's playing at the end of the season and he shows out here and shows us a lot for what could be next year, this could be a steal at this point of the offseason next year when he's the starter and really has all the hype behind him.
Here's my problem. And again, we don't know if this was, the team that traded for Fields, if they gave up their own first, or was somebody else's first or something like that. If you're giving up a first, if you're giving up your own first for Justin Fields for a player who's not going to play all year, that first that you're giving up could be pretty high. So, again, that changes if it was somebody else's first, like a contender's first or something like that. But this would be a terrifying deal to make. I mean, there's so much uncertainty, and I don't like the quarterback class next year, but I mean, whatever the quarterback you would be getting could be just as good as Justin Fields. He's kind of toxic in the dynasty community. So yeah, there's no way I would give up. Like if I'm trading a first, I want a much more secure asset than Justin Fields.
Look, maybe I'm a hard ass in that sense as a commissioner, but if this trade went through in mine, I'm not a vetoer, but if this trade went through, I would think, okay, this manager A is leaving at the end of the year. B, he is unreasonably high on Justin Fields this year and thinks that he's going to play this year, day one, and thinks that he's going to trade away his future assets for this guy. And I'd be like, do you want out before the season starts? Let me know. Like, do you need a break? Wouldn't boot him. I'd give him that offer. Like, are you done? But this to me just seems like Dynasty just, you know the type. You know the type that's just going to trade away all their picks for players and then leave the next guy with a sack. So,
yeah, I mean, I wouldn't make this trade either. Just so we're clear on that, if my sarcasm wasn't coming through on my earlier comment, I would not make this trade. I can't see a world where, I mean, you might be hard pressed to get a second for him. Really, I mean, his value's fallen so much for a guy that may never see the field again. We don't know.
He could. I mean, there are kick returns, so he probably could see the field.
Just not in the way we want.
That's right. I mean, Scott Fish, he might have a lot of value, but I don't know for long haul. I mean, we see it with like someone like Trey Lance. Like, yeah, like he could get traded and he's in a situation where he could be the next guy, but like every year that he's not the guy, he becomes older and older. And in the NFL, it's like it's the next man up. Like once you become that toy on the shelf, you start collecting dust and kids start going to the store and picking out the new Buzz Lightyear. Sorry, Woody. Yeah. So I feel like Justin Fields is done, but I could be wrong. Next one, we got tight end Brock Bowers. Once again, another Gator trade. Tight end Brock Bowers for running back Jalen Warren, 2025 first. Oh, I'm sorry. I think I put that in twice. So only one 2025 first and then a 2025 second.
Ooh, I was gonna say if that was for two first, I was gonna be like, that is as much as I like Bowers and his long term
Sorry,
appeal here in the NFL, I'll say
that's
two
better.
first plus Warren in a second. I'm like, that was a smash on the pick side for sure. But this makes it a little bit more interesting. I think I'm gonna assume this is tight end premium, and I would take Bowers just because he's got all the upside in the world. I don't know who they're going to be throwing to other than Adams over there in Vegas, so he could see a significant target share right out of the gate here. Even as a dumpster fire as this offense could be, he's still going to show fantasy value in year one, and I like his long-term prospects.
I think I when I saw this originally, I was thinking there's no way I would trade Brock Bowers for that. But now that I'm looking at it, I think I'd do it because sure, a 2024 first is worth more than a 2025 first, but to some people, a first is just a first. And so for someone like TJ Hawkinson right now, that his value is going to drop a little bit, how much I feel like some managers in certain situations would be willing to give up TJ Hawkinson for a sole 2025 first at this point. So if I had traded away the youth of Brock Bowers for this trade and got Jalen Warren and traded my 2025 first for TJ Hawkinson, I'm basically got Jalen Warren, TJ Hawkinson, and a 2025 second for Brock Bowers. If I'm contending and I want to like roll it out, if I'm a Jalen Warren guy, I could see rostering him, but you could even like trade the Jalen Warren guy to the Najee Harris owner and stack that and get a second for Jalen Warren. So I see way too much value with this Jalen Warren and pick side. Even though Brock Bowers could be a great tight end for a long time to come. There's always this point, from what we're seeing, there's reason to believe that youthful tight ends are going to be taking over for the next few years. Obviously, they're not all going to be Sam Laporta and Trey McBride, but we're seeing the future, and that not every wide receiver wanted to be a wide receiver. Some wide receivers just ended up being a tight end and were great at blocking. And now that with how the NFL is changing, that we're seeing more players like this.
Yeah, for me, this is a deal where we need context. Like in any kind of tight end premium, I think I'm smashing the Bauer side. If it's not, like again, we've made this point before. If the value of tight end premium is that you can start an extra tight end in the flex, otherwise, they just become kind of redundant. You don't want to start a second tight end. So if this was a case, a non-tight end premium, and you just drafted Bowers because he was the best player on the board at the time, you couldn't make a deal on the clock or something like that, then it wasn't really the guy you want to take, but he was the best value, so you just kind of took him and tried to see what you could get for him later. Then I could see this deal on the Warren side. Then I'm okay with it. But yeah, I think in a tight end premium, where I think which is really going to accentuate Bowers' value even more, I would lean the Bauer side. Otherwise, if it's not, then I'd pretty easily take the Warren and the first side.
Anything else to add?
Mm-hmm. No.
All right. Last one of the day. Unless we got anyone else that wants to pop one in the comment section, go ahead and do that now. But if not, we're going to finish it up with this one right here. Another Gator trade. Sorry, people. Wide receiver Tank Dell for running back Brian Robinson in a 2026 second. I don't even want to give energy to this trade. That's where I'm at with this.
You would have to be pretty desperate for a running back to not want the Tank Dell side. So
you must be really low Tank Dell with Stephon Diggs arriving there to really think that this is that trade.
Yeah, I would pretty easily take the Tank Dell side.
To this person, this is what I would say as my advice. To any person that thinks that Tank Dell has dropped that much in value to justify for Brian Robinson in a second, if you were the one that sent this trade, I highly recommend that you come out next Friday, next Saturday, and next Sunday to Canton, Ohio. Come hang out at the Fantasy Football Expo. We're going to be live. We're going to be hanging out, and you can talk to so many people with so many bigger brains than I have. That's why I go every year. It's because I want to absorb and through osmosis, all that smartness. I want to feel it. I want to breathe it all in. And I feel like that would really help you, my friend, as well. So make sure you come to Canton, Ohio next weekend.
Yep, absolutely. And any final trade thoughts here before we do our ad read here from our great sponsor?
I don't know. I don't think so.
That's it. Some good deals this week.
Alrighty. Well,
Mm-hmm.
even though that was fun, I figured we might as well tell you all about people that we were talking about earlier on in this episode. Our friends at Dynasty Nerds. Do you want to take your Dynasty teams to a championship? Do you want to stack championships for years to come? So you need to hear all about Club Fantasy's newest partnership, Dynasty Nerds. Dynasty Nerds is one of the most trusted sources for both Dynasty advice and Dynasty tools. Their Nerd Score helps identify rookies with high ceilings and longevity to keep you in contention for years. If that's what you're looking for, is film on incoming rookies, then look no further than their all-22 film room. They even have a Dynasty trade calculator that can help you find values throughout the season and better understand how to value players across an ever-changing landscape. And these are just a few of the tools they offer. Just head to dynastynerds.com to see for yourself. Choose from one of their subscription plans. I'm going to get that down, I promise. Subscription plans. And at checkout, enter code Club Fantasy to save 15% off of your subscription. Once again, go to dynastynerds.com and use promo code Club Fantasy to get 15% off. Well, not my best one, guys, but I hope the message rings through to go to dynastynerds.com and enter 15% off for code Club Fantasy. And actually, it's not our most recent partnership. We also are partners now by Trophy Smack here at Club Fantasy as well. So we're partnering with everybody. If you know them, we're partners with them. We're good. We're homies. We're locking it down. All right. Club Fantasy.
That's right.
Like, subscribe, all that fun stuff.
Yes. Any final thoughts before I get us out of here, gentlemen? I do want us to go enjoy this riveting Hall of Fame game that we've got going on here and catch part of it at least.
Yes. Oh my God. How did I forget? I was literally going to play Fortnite after this. Like, nope, not happening, guys. Not happening. I will see you all next week. My loves, my beautifuls. Mwah. I will see you all then, and we'll throw them back.
Cannot wait to see you guys in person right here next week. Looking forward to it.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure you follow us. You can follow me at FF Dusty Dog. You can follow Hoov at HoovTube, and you can follow Joel at the Joel Wirth. Make sure you're following and subscribing to Club Fantasy FFL and Women of Fantasy Football at women_of_FF. And make sure you are subscribing to all the great shows that Club Fantasy has under their banner here. On Mondays, it's Mocking with the Stars. On Tuesday, it's the Masterclass with the aforementioned Gator. Wednesdays, we've got Who's Your Caddy, which is a golf DFS show. On Wednesday night, the flagship show of No Pun Intended. On Thursdays, you've got us as TradeBlocked, but then also following us, we've got Mock Girl Summer. On Saturdays, we've got Mock It Like It's Hot. And on Sunday, it's the Dynasty After Party. So make sure you're going out, subscribing to all those, checking out those shows whenever we go live. We've got great content 7 days a week here. It's unreal, the amount of awesome content we've got. So make sure you're doing that. Gentlemen, I can't wait to see you in a week here. And enjoy the rest of your evening in this Hall of Fame game. And yeah, we'll be chatting soon.
Yeet.
Peace, everybody.